Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, July 15th, 2025. So we start off with Kristen and Brady. So they're just talking about Johnny's case, and they're worried about how it's going to affect Rachel if she has to testify against her own cousin, right? So Brady tells her that there's more developments in the case. He said that he spoke to Belle, and Belle told him that there's a new suspect in the case, and it's Chanel. So now Kristen is kind of relieved because maybe Rachel might not have to testify against Johnny, and she won't have to go through all of that. So Brady said, we're not in the clear as yet. Like, I still haven't talked to Belle about whether or not Rachel will be recused from it, or at all. So we still have to be on the lookout for that. So Kristen also tells Brady about her running with EJ and how EJ was threatening her to force Rachel to lie on stand just to save his own son. So Brady was really livid about that. He was going to go to confront him, and Kristen said, it's no use. I don't want to see you get hurt. I know that EJ, when he's protecting those he loves, he's a very dangerous man. I don't want you to get in the crossfires. And Brady said he can handle himself, and she knows that. But she said it will be mute at the end of the day, because maybe Rachel doesn't have to testify against Johnny or, be involved in the case at all, right? She also talks about Chanel and how, if Chanel is really guilty, she deserves to go to jail for putting Johnny through it. So Brady thinks that she's been a little harsh, and, he can understand her hatred towards EJ for what he put Johnny through. And, she now understands because she was once there as well, protecting the man that, protecting her loved ones and all that. But she wouldn't do it at the expense of the man that she loves, right? So anyways, speaking of Johnny and Chanel, Johnny again calls off work, tells Philip that he's not coming in. And I'm saying, for somebody that's new on the job, he definitely is calling off a lot. I mean, they're very relaxed over there in the corporate world, right? But anyways, Chanel comes in, and Chanel said, you're looking really relaxed for what we're facing now. We're both being suspected for, shooting your father, and I'm just really not in the calmest of mood. So he understands, but he just has to be steady and firm, because he knows that Chanel didn't do it, and she's not capable of doing that. And he's just there to support her, right? So he also saw that she put up sweet bits as collateral for his bail, and he's like, why would you do that? So she said, like, look, I'm your writer there. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that I'm supporting you in any way. So he's like, you could have let my dad take care of it. So she said, no, for you to be beholden to him, no. Like, if it wasn't even me, I would have asked my mom. At the end of the day, I am gonna support you, right? Don't worry about it. So anyways, he asks how he can be of comfort to her. She also talks about the suspects, anybody else that they could look into. So he said that they talked about Ave and Gabby and also his aunt Kristen. And she said, Kristen definitely could have motives. So they said that, she didn't want to talk about EJ or shooting or anything like that, because she still has hatred towards him. But she didn't do it. She doesn't remember talking to him that way, and she just wants to forget it for a while. So he just, he's just being there to hold her and support her through it all. So Holly and Ari's scene was really a case of the boys' mind, where, neither of them know that they were dealing with the other guy. But anyways, the goon heads off to deal with their little friend and tells them that, look, if their little friend doesn't come up on his promise, something's gonna happen to them. So they're panicking. They're wondering, like, how are they gonna get out of the situation. Holly thinks about their little friend and noticed that, put two and two together, it's Doug, right? So she says that because of that guy, and not, committing to his financial obligations with this loan shark, now they're in this problem. So they are talking with each other, and they find out that they're actually dealing with the same guy. It's Doug. So Ari tells Holly that, she actually slept with him, and Holly said no, she didn't deal with him like that. She thought that there could be something after her and Tate broke up, but she was still not over Tate, right? So she didn't go to third base with him at all. And, Ari's feeling like, a slut, that she, didn't think straight about him, and now she's in this mess. She's angry with herself. At first, she lashed out at Holly and said like she's this good girl and all of that, and she's just a slut, whatever. And then she realized that look, it's not her fault. She's just angry with herself for, getting involved with a sleazeball, and she tried to, find out what was going on with him, and she knows there's something he was hiding, but she didn't know what it was. And she's just upset with Doug for putting them in this mess. So they think about like who could rescue them before it's too late, because Holly did a smart thing to leave her classroom in the park off the square, so maybe Tate was there waiting and somebody could have found it so they can trace them to wherever they're located. But it's a lot of warehouses, so they're not sure how it's gonna go, so they're just panicking and wondering, hopefully somebody, Tate maybe, will investigate, question more people, and get their families involved and get them out of the situation. So speaking of Doug and his dumb self, right? Because at this point, I'm just gonna start calling him Dumb Doug, because he just doesn't seem to know how to get himself out of these kind of messy situations. He's dressed up as a butler and he has, a plate on his hand, and he is at Gwen's room, right? He's knocking to see if he can get in, and nobody's answering, so he uses his car to try swiping in, but Gwen catches him. So Gwen was coming back from shopping. She's like, what are you doing? So he said like, I'm just doing room service. And she said she didn't order anything, so he said, oh, maybe something got mixed up. So she said she ordered breakfast, but that was a long time ago, so he's sorry for that mix up. So she comes in, and then he's hiding there, and she comes back out. He noticed that she had a necklace initially, so he realizes that she still has it on, and there's no way he can really retrieve that, right? But I'm just saying, is this your real elaborate plan to dress up as a butler and think that you were going to get hand of the necklace? Like, why would Gwen want to take that off when it's worth a lot of money? Come on now. So he meets up with the loan shark afterwards, and he is holding him by his shirt and saying like, look, what have you done with them? Like, if you hurt them, I swear to God. So he's like, look, nothing's gonna happen to them unless make promise on the cash, the necklace, whatever. So he said that he tried to get a necklace, but he didn't, and he's working on getting the cash, and the loan shark is just tired to hear the same thing, right? So he calls one of his henchmen to make due on his threats to hurt Holly and Ari. So he's like, look, I promise, just give me one more chance, give me the opportunity to make the money. I'm gonna make sure that I get it to you. So he hangs up the phone and said, look, you have one more day, right? If you do not provide the money by sun up, something's gonna happen to those girls, right? So it's like, I promise I'm gonna get the money to you, but do not hurt the girls or else. So it's like, look, the only way that's gonna happen is if you don't meet you on your promise, right? And remember, no cops, right? So again, Doug doesn't use his sense. He can't do right at all. He's just a dumb disappointment. So EJ and Belle, right? As we already forecasted, these two are it's gonna be a messy situation, because they're on opposite sides of the law, in the sense where Belle is the DA and she has to like uphold her standards, her reputation, regardless if it's her nephew or not. She has to be unbiased, whereas we have EJ that's gonna do whatever he has to do to make sure that his son walk free. So they're there having their little casual rendezvous in the bed, and he makes her breakfast, and they're talking about the case. And he's saying, Bill is saying like, I love hanging out with you and I love being like this, because I know we're gearing up for a rather messy court battle, chaotic court battle. And EJ is not worried about that, because he knows that Belle is going to be fair. She's going to be upholding the law. He has no worries about that. So she's like, what if Johnny is definitely guilty of that? Like, how is that going to play out between us? So he doesn't believe that's going to happen, but he believes that Belle is fair and Belle will do the right thing, right? And besides, they have another suspect, Chanel. So he's saying maybe he can just drop the charges against Johnny and use that as evidence to probably incriminate Chanel and all that. So it's like, what do you take me for? Like, I want Johnny to be innocent, and I do believe he's innocent, but at the end of the day, I have to do my job, right? I have a standard to hold up. How would it look like if I was involved in Johnny being free, and then the public's gonna look at me like I gave him special favors. I didn't even want to be put back on the case because of how close I am to the suspect. So she's wondered how EJ got the judge to get her back, but then again she doesn't want to know. Says that, look, I was fair and I definitely went through it the right way, and I trust you, and I'm sure the judge trusts your integrity on that, right? So anyways, at some point they get into an argument because Belle feels as if EJ is just seducing her so that, it could cloud her judgments, and she, ensures that Johnny gets free off the case and all that. And she's not having it. So she's like, goodbye, EJ. But I just know that this is just a whole mess. Like, she shouldn't be on the case, period. And then they're sleeping together. At the end of the day, like, she is gonna be affected. Her judgment is gonna be clouded. No matter how she says she's gonna be unbiased and she's gonna be fair, like, she's in love with EJ. Like, it's gonna be a whole mess in court. So I thought I had the picture in here, but Tate ended up going back to his dad's place, and he tells his dad that he hasn't seen Holly or Ari at all. He went to the lake. He asked some more kids about them, and nobody's seen them, right? So Brady saying maybe they're running late or something like that, and probably no good reception because Tate said he hasn't had any calls or text backs from Holly, so he's worried about her. Maybe she's not interested in doing a relationship with him or continue a relationship with him. So he said, if she didn't want that, she would have told you that from the get-go. And he said, maybe you're right, like, she was very excited to hang out with me hours ago, so I'm just gonna see what else could be the problem, like how else can I really help the situation. So Brady's saying, maybe talk to somebody that could know where Holly be. So Tate said, yeah, I know just the person. So he goes over to see Doug, who was actually thinking about taking the money out of the cash register. I'm saying, Doug, if you really go through with that, like, how do you expect Roman to feel after that? Like, you're trying to turn yourself around and you're doing all this madness. He's taking the drink off of their liquor cabinet as well. And Tate comes in, and Tate is like, have you seen or heard from Holly? You and her are good friends, and at some point you wanted to be with her. So Doug is saying, like, I don't know where she is. I really do. Honestly, I don't know where she could be at this point. Boy, this is gonna be a whole mess, but I'm here for it. So Gwen comes into the DeMera mansion, and Kristen is there, and Kristen's surprised to see her. She didn't expect her to be here after her whole escapade and what's the place, Alemania, whatever. So Gwen said she took her unsolicited but helpful advice, and she's now very rich and filthy rich at that, because she was able to convince the von Leuschner family to give her Dimitri's fortune. So Kristen is happy to hear that, and she's like, why would you be in Salem with all that fortune? So she's like, I have some loose ends to tie up, and came to see my friends and family. So Kristen had to say, like, no offense, but your family hates you, and I'm your only friend unless you patch it up with Leo. So she's like, no, I haven't forgiven him. So anyways, I'm here to, like, talk to you, and I'm also at the mirror as well, and I want to move in. So Kristen's like, really? Like, why would you want to move in here? And there's so much going on now. And she's like, come on, there's always drama here. So she's like, yeah, but it's definitely worse now. And as they speak, EJ coming in running after Belle, and Belle comes out. So EJ is like, when rest check, what you doing here? So she's like, Von Lusher. So he's like, gesundheit. So she's like, I'm moving in. So Kristen has to laugh at EJ, because the look on EJ's face is like, huh? So I don't know if how this is gonna work, and he's definitely gonna be displeased. Ain't he like the owner? Isn't he the owner of the title to the house? So how is that gonna work? But Gwen always wants to just create misery wherever she goes. But that is it, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to my channel. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys tomorrow.